Video games have come a long way ever since the early 70s, and they've evolved in all sorts of different directions, but you just can't beat the classics, now can you? A time when games were all about having fun and not just marketing or making money. If you're looking for some great retro-style games to play, then look no further, we've got you covered. Get ready to experience a lethal dose of nostalgia. First up, we have Tetris. Alexei Pajitnov's granddaddy of all retro games may have started off as a program on a Russian computer, but it's since gone on to find global acclaim on every kind of system, from handheld to consoles. While Tetris has been re-released in many forms over the years, the core concept of lining up specifically shaped bricks to form lines to disappear has never changed. Anyone, young or old, knows what it is and can immediately get playing without the need for any complex instructions. Pajitnov's dream of using a computer to make people happy seems like a complete success, considering Tetris's global sales, with over 100 million confirmed purchases of EA's release alone. Then we look at Doom. Once upon a time, when FPS games weren't called first-person shooters, they were simply referred to as a Doom clone. The groundbreaking impact of ID Software's greatest creation for its time echoed around the whole world. Not only did it usher in a whole new genre of games, but it also proved that PCs were capable of becoming gaming platforms. While their previous release, Wolfenstein 3D, may have laid the groundwork for this process, Doom hugely refined it. It delivered intense action, sick level design, and an excellent range of weapons that still hold up to this day. The game's so iconic that talented programmers and coders all over the world have managed to make it run on anything from a pregnancy test to even an exercise bike. Moving on to Undertale. Undertale is practically the antithesis of the modern flashy AAA video game formula with its bare-bone visuals. Its popularity just goes to show that people don't care whether a game has good graphics or not. After accidentally falling into a hidden world filled with monsters and the occasional flamboyant robot, the player must solve puzzles and battle enemies to survive. However, the game's unique combat system allows players the option to not fight enemies at all. Instead of defeating your enemy, you can just befriend them. Such actions then go on to alter the story of the game in many ways. You can play the game as a pacifist, making friends out of every monster that you come across, or you can choose the path of violence and kill everything in your path. The addictive gameplay, amazing soundtrack, eccentric lore, and unique characters all come together to make Undertale one of the greatest games for fans of retro RPGs. Don't forget Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. If you consider Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past as the standard for 2D RPG adventure games, then Ocarina revolutionized the 3D side of the market, showcasing Nintendo's brand new console with its perfectly structured cutscenes and engaging gameplay. Ocarina's greatest victory is arguably its portrayal of a solid and real world full of lore and character. Few OG gamers will forget the feeling of stepping out into Hyrule Field for the first time with the promise of adventure, a strong story, satisfying combat mechanics, and memorable boss fights. Then there's Super Mario 64. Is there such a thing as a perfect game? We're not sure, but it's definitely hard to find any problems with the fourth installment in the Super Mario series. Originally launched for Nintendo's new 16-bit console, Super Mario World took the model of the previous games in its series and pushed it to absolute breaking point, delivering expertly crafted levels that bristled with imagination and ingenuity. It also introduced players to new characters like Yoshi, allowing Mario to fly using a new cape power-up, and was filled with all sorts of hidden secrets that were just begging to be explored. It's a masterclass of 2D game design, and there has yet to be a better 2D platformer released ever since. And how many of you remember playing Celeste? Celeste is about a young woman named Madeline who's climbing a mountain, but the story isn't as simple as it sounds. You see, the journey to the top is a therapeutic representation of Madeline's fight against her anxiety and depression. Even the villain of the game, Battleline, is actually her negative thoughts and feelings. Just like any old platformer, there's a lot of jumping and bouncing between walls as well as hundreds of puzzles waiting to be solved. Platformer video games are quite difficult at times, and Celeste is amongst the hardest of all time. Often considered the Dark Souls of platformers, though that shouldn't discourage you from playing it. Tomb Raider's an all-timer. Lara Croft may not be the first female character to star in a video game, but she's arguably still the most important. The gaming world wasn't the only one obsessed with the posh aristocrat adventurer, however, and she soon became one of the few video game characters to go beyond the media that had created her. Tomb Raider isn't just a game about Lara, though. It was a cracking adventure in its own right, allowing players to explore dangerous animal-filled tombs with a staggering sense of scale that many feel no series has ever bettered. Moving on to Resident Evil 4. The fourth installment of Capcom's acclaimed horror series brought back fan favorite Leon S. Kennedy and also reinvented the third-person action genre in the process. The birth of games such as Gears of War, Uncharted, and countless other titles can all be traced back to Resi 4's DNA. The game's distinctive European setting, focus on quick-time events, and complete lack of zombies, now replaced by the living infected, highlighted Capcom's desire to push forwards in a brand new direction for its popular franchise. Resi 4's success has led to countless re-releases over the years, with the most recent release being on VR for maximum immersion and pant-wetting horror. You've been warned. Next is Shovel Knight. Not only does it look like a 90s 8-bit platformer, but it also plays like one too. Shovel Knight follows the misadventures of the titular hero on his mission to rescue his trusted companion, Shield Knight. The main weapon of choice to be used in the game is, as the name suggests, of course, a shovel. But there are plenty of other items that can be unlocked as well. The game was re-released back in 2019 as Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, now including 3 whole new campaigns beside the base game and even added a multiplayer feature. Shovel Knight's one of those iconic indie games that prove retro is still relevant in the world of gaming. Also, the Street Fighter II. The original Street Fighter didn't really take the arcade world by storm. However, its sequel managed to do everything right and became such an enormous success that it had changed the fighting genre forever. The characters were a range of exotic fighters, from a burly Russian wrestler to a green-skinned electric monster, and each had its own unique range of special moves and fighting styles. It was such a success for Capcom that it cannibalized its arcade boards and created a potent formula that every rival developer has tried to copy ever since. Then, GoldenEye 007. Console shooters and film licenses definitely existed before GoldenEye came along, but few featured the flair and self-confidence of GoldenEye's dynamic mission structure. New objectives were revealed when you increased the difficulty, and its painstaking attention to detail offered an authentic representation of the movie it was adapted from. It's a shame that the series is now in such a legal quagmire, meaning we're most likely never going to be able to officially play it on modern systems, though it is available on all older consoles. Next, we have Cuphead. While it isn't specifically retro-looking in the gaming sense, Cuphead counts as a part of the list due to its visual inspiration from old Disney-style cartoons and old-school gameplay. In terms of gameplay, however, Cuphead is a classic run-and-gunner. Whether you play it single-player or cooperatively with a friend or online stranger, Cuphead has its players battling a multitude of creative bosses, running through levels while defeating enemies and unlocking brand new upgrades. The game has been praised by both players and critics alike, and there aren't many titles out there that look like it. Cuphead takes the retro idea and full sends it to the max, and it's all the better for it. And of course, Metal Gear Solid. Few game directors come close to the ambitious and film-oriented nature of the legendary Japanese video game dev Hideo Kojima, and Metal Gear Solid immediately stands out on a console that already had its fair share of film-like games. While Metal Gear Solid was far from Snake's first mission, the power of Sony's brand new consoles and David Hayter's solid, pun not intended, voice acting brought the character to life in a way that just wasn't possible in his older 8-bit adventures. For all of its excellent cinematic pacing, challenging missions, and delightfully cheesy exposition, it's the many innovative Kojima flourishes that helped Metal Gear Solid stand out as perhaps one of the finest games in the entire series. That's a wrap for this video. What are some of your favorite retro-styled games? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.